Nader from the A³&Co company, and I'd like to introduce him to you briefly. He brings over 20 years of experience in the built environment and cement industry across more than 50 countries within the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and North America. He has a background in chemical engineering and a postgraduate degree in digital business from MIT and Columbia Business School. He's held executive positions at renowned companies such as Lafarge, Orascom, ASEC, and Yanbu Cement Company. And Amr's experience has made him a sought-after keynote speaker in the cement industry. Amr, can you hear us?
Yes, Robert, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just putting your presentation into presentation mode, that would be great. Amr pioneered the digital maturity model for the cement industry globally, and his contributions extend to various areas of business transformation, performance optimization, risk management, strategy execution, and project development and evaluation. And with a focus on innovation, he continues to contribute significantly to the industry's growth and development. Amr, we can see you and we can hear you, and your PowerPoint is in exactly the right format. So please do go ahead and give us your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert, and it's always a pleasure to be with you, and a special pleasure to be on Middle East and Africa Forum. I will address an overview of the cement sector in Africa and Middle East, and we'll focus on some challenges and opportunities, and we'll make a special focus on the climate challenge and the way things are going in Africa and Middle East, and activities being done towards that. First, let's have a quick look on Middle East and Africa cement sector. We are one of the second biggest market in the world for cement production. 920 million ton of capacity, 13% of the world, 584 operating units. This is 24% of the world operating lines. In total, we have 374 integrated gray cement lines. We are, as I said, the second biggest region for cement production after Asia and Oceania. And of course, Asia is mainly driven by China. If I remove China, the blue color between the first and the second will come much closer. The region is led by Turkey, Iran, who are, I would say, proxies to the Middle East and Africa region. And then the biggest one is Egypt, the biggest producer in Middle East and Africa. Saudi Arabia follows Nigeria, UAE, Iraq, Algeria, Morocco, and South Africa. So the big five or the big six in the region are also diverse, of different economies, of different locations, of different dynamics of the market, of different impacts. And if you looked at the top five or the top six players, they are also highly populated countries. So it's high emission, it's high production, it's diverse, it's dynamic. So it's very interesting to deep dive and try to understand as much as possible that region and its opportunities and challenges and what can be done through it. To produce cement, you need a strong construction industry to drive the demand. In most of African and Middle East countries, the construction sector is the second or the third economical activity from a size point of view and an importance to GDP point of view. And you can split the countries in GCC or in Africa and Middle East to two separate categories. You have the GCC category, which is driven by oil price, supporting government investment to have a strong construction sector. On the other hand, the African side, you have a growing population, which is driving the housing need, consequently driving a strong construction sector. The trends that are driving the construction sector in both sides are more or less similar. They are either new emerging markets or a country in reconstruction or a country in diversion, like Saudi Arabia, for example. They are diversing towards a new state of the country, consequently a complete new dimension of building or construction is happening there. Other countries like Ghana, Angola, Nigeria, countries that will follow shortly for rebuild like Syria and Libya. So all driving construction. Significant steps towards sustainable energy. Currently, whether you are aware with or following or lagging behind the climate challenge, you are forced to manage your energy sustainably because of its cost. Simple as that. So sustainable energy driver is all over across. Finally, modular housing maturity, driven by high population, driven by better utilization of space, lower utilization of water, better utilization of energy, ergonomic building approach, all of that. In addition to, of course, the digital maturity part, which is driving not only the construction and the cement sector, but driving most of other economical sectors as well. That said, we need to have a look on the challenges and opportunities that are in the region. Simply speaking, we are in continuous growth, various challenges, various opportunities, rapid population growth, and increased investment in infrastructure and urban development in these regions. As I said, driven by either or population or oil price and increased GDP. So cement companies are facing an evolving landscape, pressure from market demands, high requirement from the infrastructure development, and they need to do that while keeping their costs down, efficient practices, and embracing sustainability to meet the climate change. So this combination of the situation that is both demanding on a production scale and demanding on an operational excellence scale combined together has its of course, I would say pressure on the cement companies operating in these regions. And I intentionally did not split challenges and opportunities because each of the coming points can be a challenge and in itself is an opportunity at the same time. Demand expansion. If you don't have sufficient operational excellence and you don't have good assets and you don't have a good technology, it's a challenge. If you have them, it's an opportunity. And that is one of the main strategic parts from that the whole Middle East and Africa have been working on in the past 3 or 5 years, which is operational excellence improvement within the assets of cement industry. Infrastructure development, that's of course an opportunity. Supply chain efficiency, and this has been a major challenge when it comes to spare parts, but it's also a major opportunity when it comes to export. I think around 45% of the world export is happening around our region, either incoming or outgoing. So the cement movement, cement and clinker movement around Middle East and Africa is the biggest globally, or the second biggest at least, if we exclude China, of course. Technological advancements. Most of the cement industry in Middle East and Africa, and this is an advantage, is new lines. The oldest line operating in most of the plants, if I exclude so little of the countries, at least 2 or 3 countries, the rest are beyond the 70s, mostly in 80s, and some of them are 90s and 2000s. So it's new lines, relatively new lines, not as old as European lines, so less technological challenges. Sustainability and environmental regulation. This is both an opportunity and a challenge combined, because when they are not there, you are lagging behind new trends. And when they are there and you are lagging, it's an uphill challenge to meet them. So that is, I would say, the major drivers, the major dynamic in the market in that region currently. Countries are either fast-paced, trying to overpass the regulation framework from the countries to be able to be ready for the future, and the very near future actually, and some of them are lagging, waiting for the government to take the decision to bring on the framework that will make them work. And of course, each has its pros and cons. Regional economical and political stability, and that works on GCC, some parts of North Africa, West and East Africa, South Africa, of course. But of course, we have other areas that have political stability challenge. So it could be an opportunity again, and it could be a challenge. It depends where you are. Competition and market consolidation. I would say most of the African markets are where integrated lines are available are oversupplying, which is the reason for high competition on export. And most of the countries that doesn't have integrated lines are, of course, net importers. So competition is high because when you are buying clinker, you look for the best clinker and you want the cheapest clinker. And now you don't want only the cheapest, you want the cheapest clinker at the highest possible quality and lowest possible carbon footprint. So again, competition, market consolidation are both a challenge and an opportunity. Depends where you are and how you look at the factor itself. So most important of such challenges and opportunities is the climate challenge. And again, the climate challenge, you can look at it as an opportunity and as a challenge. It depends how you take the look. This is some data, some facts extracted from the WEF July 2022 edition report. And it shows that cement, if you looked at the top, I don't know if you can see my mouse. If you looked at the top left, you would see that cement ranks number 4 in the basic material industry emission intensity trajectory, both in 2020 and 2030 on all layers. It is the 4th category, which means that we are not the maximum emitter. And if you looked at the right side, oil and natural gas, you would see that their numbers are much higher even compared to the basic material. So as we all know, cement represents 8% of the total GHG emission. But the problem of cement is that cement makes concrete. And concrete is the most abundantly used material globally. Consequently, the 8% of cement are impactful more than others. And of course, combined with steel and aluminium, which are used in building material as well. And of course, ammonia because of the agriculture impact of it. But cement stays the biggest contributor. So if you looked at the global GHG emission scope 1 and 2 on the other side, you would see that cement is the second biggest after steel on the industry sites. The good news is, according to the WEF report, 95% of the primary production emissions, which is direct emissions from operations of the plant, are doable to be abated, which means that 95% of the total GHG emissions of cement are abatable under technologies that we will see how mature it is and the cost of it. But with using 95% CO2 capture efficiency CCUS, we are capable to take 95% of the total carbon emission, GHG emissions of the cement plant. The bottom part of the page shows actually why cement is a problematic industry. The above numbers show that cement is not as big as others from an impact, from a total GHG point of view, except for the concrete and the abundance of use. But the bottom side is where we are really problematic. If you look at steel and aluminium, the blue part shows the part of the today's production meeting reduced emission intensity threshold. If you look at cement, there is no light blue part, zero. And this is a global report. And this is the problem. This is why cement is looked as a problematic. We are not the highest, but we are the worst when it comes to movement and progress. And the worst thing about that is this delay of implementation and abatement is due to cement people. We are either bluffed by technologies that we cannot implement economically effectively now, or we are waiting for governments to make it by force. And that reluctancy or luxury dreaming is driven by the fact that cement makes a very high margin all over the world. So cement companies, being a strategic material supplier, are either dreaming, looking at investing and effort and time in technologies that are not mature yet, and consequently are reducing less, so the light blue part is not existing. So as I will show in the next slides, we can reduce a good chunk of the existing GHG emissions by technologies that are available today, or the other side, because they are strategic and they are making good money and there is no legal framework that is pushing hard behind the change, they are waiting for governments to take decisions. The result is this: what you see is that we do not have today's production volume that is meeting the reduced emission intensity threshold as defined by the UN and WEF. Simple as that, the EI threshold. So this is a problem, and this is what we need to look for a solution. Let's have a quick look on technologies and capex. So from a technology perspective, cement, to decarbonize its production process as a whole, is behind ammonia, oil, and of course behind natural gas in equal stage, which is stage two with steel and aluminium. Again, remember the light blue part, so we are on the same technological level of to decarbonize the production process as steel and aluminium. Steel and aluminium had a much higher today's production meeting reduced emission intensity, which means we are not capitalizing sufficiently on the available mature technology. This is one. Two, infrastructure to enable low emission technologies. Of course, cement and steel are the lowest because cement and steel are not final products. They are products to a lot of other industries. Therefore, the infrastructure required for them to be able to sell low, especially being the biggest contributors, is dependent on the infrastructure development on other sectors. For example, cement, you will never have a sufficient infrastructure to push for green cement until green belt environment is mature. That takes us to the demand part, and you will see that ammonia and cement are the lowest, and followed by oil and then steel and natural gas. And you would see that the abundance of use is a direct impact on the demand maturity. Once the material is very strategic, used in very high volumes in very big sectors like agriculture and built environment, in case of ammonia and cement, you will find that they are lagging from a demand maturity point of view. And natural gas, of course, and aluminium and steel are in a better state, especially that, for example, in built environment, steel, because it's always the most expensive part, so the green premium added to it to make it a bit green is acceptable by buyers. But cement, being looked at as a cheaper contributor and a bigger volume, is usually having a much problematic demand maturity approach. Policies, cement is equal to ammonia, oil, and natural gas, and cement standards, from my point of view, at least cement standards available today are sufficient to support at least 70% abatement within the cement industry without any problems. Finally, capital. Of course, cement industry is a capital intensive industry, so this 1.6x is required to cover both technology and infrastructure, and that includes both mature technology and upcoming future technology. So, and I would say that 1.6x is not a big deal, given that cement industry has been doing above 20% net profit margins over the past maybe 10 years. And before that, it was 30 and 50%. So cement plants have sufficient, I would say, cash power, or let's say investment power, to match a good deal of this 1.6x and move forward. In A³&Co, and being cement producers and operators all our lives, we looked at climate change from a different angle from day one. We looked at implementation, not innovation. Innovation is a good thing. We are doing it. We have a very good input towards it, but we have to start with what's available. So from our perspective, from what we see is through our 6Cs roadmap, which is clinker, cement, concrete, construction, circular economy, clean energy. The first thing we see is that cement on its own within the cement plant is capable to reduce 47% of what is being emitted from the industry before 2030. This is doable with today's technology, with minimum capex investments and capexes that are within the reach of the normal threshold of capital investment of cement plants. And then we have on the product waste to energy part and the product portfolio optimization, we have the circular economy side, which we see that cement plants in many countries can be a very good driver for circular economy, both on those two sides, product portfolio optimization and waste to energy, and also when it comes to CCUS, if the focus moved right towards CCUS and not CCS. Then once this is achieved and we have a light blue line sufficient to match aluminium and steel, and even better because we are talking about 47%, then there is a parts of the calcined clay or the belite cement which are a bit of an extra mile, which have a bit of an adaptation of the technology, more transformative impact on the cement industry, and of course higher investment, and still they have mature technologies and can be implemented today. Those, I would say, are the 57%. Those are the base. Those are the quick hanging fruits that can be achieved today and before it's too late. And then during that time, there is sufficient money and investment and need for cement in the concrete and construction world to improve the R&D of second generation oxy-fuel, CCUS, and hydrogen fuel. Those will come on a later change, I would say to 2035, 2037, where oxy-fuel, which is again integrated with product portfolio optimization in many cases, and it's doable to have it an integrated solution within the plant, and of course CCU and hydrogen fuel, which are again relative to the circular economy and clean energy approach. So this is our roadmap. This is how we believe things should happen. And just to make it more technical, we have put the levers that are sufficient to achieve reducing carbon while reducing cost in different categories. You have the traditional levers where everybody is in a way working on thermal energy efficiency, electrical energy efficiency, clinker quality, product portfolio, alternative fuels, and alternative raw materials. Those are as old as the 90s, but yet the maturity in many countries, specifically talking about North Africa, GCC, is way behind in these items. And of course, some countries in Africa as well, where Africa is more advanced in alternative fuel percentage versus others driven by need mainly. Looking at digital levers, you have end-to-end automated process, digital twins, all the Industry 4.0 levers are there, and those are OpEx solutions that are available to be implemented today. Advanced levels, waste heat recovery is as old as the 90s. Clean energy is very, I would say there are countries that are doing a very good example on that. If you look at Morocco, for example, it's well advanced in the North Africa from a clean energy point of view. Egypt is running behind, it's getting closer. UAE is doing a very good job on the solar side. So these are solutions that are available today. Cement industry can tap in and can use it to decrease scope 2. We like cement. This is quite a challenging idea. Equivalently, calcined clay. Both of them need a standard implementation. So this is where we start to touch with regulations, and I can see if it was done in some countries of Africa to produce a standard for calcined clay, then it would be easy to replicate in other countries as well. Activated SCMs, this is where I was talking about innovation, and this is doable within the cement plant using the cement plant flue gas without the need of any concentration around it. Alternative building materials, this is a competing sector, but cement industry need to be brave enough, smart enough to embrace that change and to exchange with that change to, first of all, to avoid the competition, which is very hard to happen currently because the maximum volume of that sector is less than 2 million tons, and cement is producing 4.2 billion tons. So it's still far away from a competition. But the smart cement companies are now looking on the material side to advance beyond clinker and cement and to have a full control on the building material side. Last but not least is the high investment levels, where we have ex-fuel, CCUS, electrification, hydrogen fuel. Some of them are maturing, but they are yet far from investing money and time and effort towards them. These are, I would say, future solutions that need to happen after we achieve the 2030 targets. Of course, we need to work on them from now, but we need to have a focus on the first 3 categories, finalize them before 2030 and before it's too late. Thank you very much. I hand over back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much indeed, Amr, for a whistle-stop tour of the options for all of the cement producers in Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, on how they can improve their performance, apart from anything else, and also how they can improve their environmental impacts, reduce them, and abate them. So thank you very much indeed. Amr, we're very rapidly running out of time, but let me just ask you one very quick question. Do you think that there is a prospect that there will be a carbon pricing mechanism in, for example, the Middle East or Middle East, North Africa? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yes, it is happening, and it is coming, and it will happen sooner than we expect. I have my own speculations. It's not facts, but I would say that Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and UAE would be in some sort of an official carbon market within the coming 2 years.
Wow. I mean, we heard actually from one of our presenters earlier that I think it was Saudi Arabia and possibly Kuwait are preparing for that. Have you any idea about what the level of pricing of the carbon might be?
The problem was currently Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Morocco, and those are what I'm sure of, are running towards implementing a parallel or a voluntarily carbon market. The problem with the voluntarily carbon market is it's a very volatile market, and you cannot set a target for it. Egypt, being in close ties with Europe, is most probably going to adopt and align its voluntarily market towards the European carbon tax approach. Most probably it's going to be an imitation of that, if not 100% implementation, more or less, at least on the hard to abate sectors. Steel, cement, aluminium, and fertilizers. Those four are, I can tell you with a 90% certainty that they are going on that direction. UAE has already launched an initial voluntary market, as well as Saudi Arabia. They are not active yet because the framework is not finally sealed, because they are the monetary market, the monetary side of the market is not yet accepting the rules, mainly because of the volatility of the carbon price. And there is a business happening in the I would say the troposphere of carbon around that, which is insurance. Insurance companies are trying to mediate between the voluntarily carbon market and the monetary side, the stock market, by giving insurance on carbon credits, which I would say, from my point of view at least, is quite a bubble that people need not to be dragged towards that direction. But UAE is planning a baseline approach that would be finished in the coming year, most probably, and will be announced, launched in the COP, and would be finalized next year to have a full baseline for all hard-to-abate sectors, which means that they are going for a tax after that directly. Saudi Arabia, I think, is doing the same thing. I don't have very much details, but Saudi Arabia have a very strong energy efficiency framework, legal framework, and I think that will extend to cover carbon within the coming year or the next year, and again to connect to their voluntary market. So those three countries are very well in the maturity stage. And I would say, I don't know the legal framework of it, but I know from hearing from the cement people that it's coming close in Morocco as well, but I don't have sufficient, I would say, legal framework details on that.
Okay, well, you gave a very thorough, comprehensive overview, Amr, but you missed out one thing. You failed to mention that you are co-organizing a major conference next week in Athens on green cement.
Yes, thank you very much, Rob, for that. And yes, what we are talking about and what we are covering, we are trying to cover it on all regions. And Greece conference is going to be a merge between the Middle East African view of the carbon and climate challenge and the European cement industry on that approach. And I think it will be a wealthy conference full of strong ideas and perspectives. It's going to be full of panels with very prestigious panelists and speakers on that, and I look forward to see you there and see everyone here over there. Thank you very much for that, Rob.
Okay, Amr, and that is called Green Cement Conference, and that's on in Athens next week, and presumably it's not too late to register for that, and people can find details online.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah,
wonderful. Amr, that's all the time we have for questions. Thanks once again for an excellent presentation. Thank you very much indeed for giving us a nice closing keynote to our program today. You've tied everything together very, very beautifully, and you spoke extremely well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks a lot, Amr. We'll see you again another time very, very soon, I hope.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.